god. Okay. We are live. Yes. We are live. Okay. Let's go. Amanda Askell, she is the philosopher and superalignment lead at Anthropic. Let's look into this.
Thank you for this. Question.
My sense is that there's kind of a split where I've definitely seen a lot of philosophers take AI seriously, and probably honestly increasingly so, like as AI models do become more capable. And
I'm excited. I don't want, I still see like things are like a little bit like flickering, but we want to fix this. We want like really smooth, everything happening really smooth. We want this, yeah, we want things to happen. Let's make things happen.
like a lot of the things that people were worried about in terms of impact on society have started to kind of come true in a sense. Like we're seeing have a larger impact on education and just being more capable. I've definitely seen like more engagement from like all sorts of academics, but that definitely includes a lot of philosophers. I do think that early on, and maybe to some degree now, there's this like slightly unfortunate dynamic that happens where I think there was a kind of perception that if you were in the group of people saying, hey, we're kind of worried about AI, it might be a big deal, it seems like it's really, like capabilities are scaling quite a lot. This got kind of like lumped together with something like hyping AI. There was, I think, a period where there's probably a little bit more antagonism towards this view, and now I think that I'm kind of hoping that people are starting to detach the view, like you can think that AI is going to be a big deal, it might be very capable, and also be like very skeptical of it, or worried about it, or think that we have to be careful about it. Like there's a whole range of views, and I think it would be bad if people kind of like clustered many views together here.
I think effective accelerationism. Wow. Effective accelerationism. Wow. Effective accelerationism is the thing that she's talking about, that you got to make sure that it's like tech debt. How do you manage tech debt? You're building a software, you know you want to move fast, but also there has to be a time when you come back again and again and clean things up. You clean things up, you reduce things to the fundamental level, and you start structuring in that way. There's also the reason why I think like today, like we want more individuals. We want more individualism. We want more individualism in the way that we want people to be able to understand that we want people to be able to really adaptable and move, and we want some people, obviously this is not everybody, we want some people to be really individual, like really adapt, be individualist in a way that you are able to move really fast, adapt to the environment, change to the things that make sense with this, and you are on this gradient where you are trying to solve the most important problem, and you're constantly trying to do things and understand that, okay, I did something like this, now did that make sense, did I enjoy that, does this make sense to keep working on this problem, and then you keep going deeper, or you're just like, oh, I was thinking too small, I should be thinking more bigger, and then you go on a bigger problem. So there has to be this constant, I think you want to be constantly exploring, working, doing, not just exploring, you also have to be exploiting. Exploit has to be in balance. You are also working, but you are then constantly figuring out that are you working on the right problem, because the most important problem to solve is problem selection itself. Are you working on the most important problem? This is again like something that Sean Puri was talking about, that and it's very interesting. Like Sean Puri was saying something similar. We heard from Richard Hamming, who was saying something exactly similar. You and your research, he's talking more in the context of researchers. Sean Puri is talking more in the context of picking a problem for your startup, picking a career, and exactly this is very exciting. This is very exciting, like how it works in every single field. What is happening over here? Aperture. Okay, that's nice. All right, perfect.
In terms of like where the technology is going, but also like how it should be developed. So yeah, I think that's happening less and less as more people engage with it, and that's what we're going to see.
A kind of similar question from Kyle Casares. How do you minimize the tension between philosophical ideals and the engineering realities of the model? I guess it's talking about when you are working on things like character, which we'll discuss in more detail. But is there a clash between the sort of technology and the philosophical ideals that you might be thinking about?
I don't know if I'm like interpreting the question in the wrong way, but like one thing that being kind of like a philosopher by training and coming into this field has been really interesting is
one thing I really like about ChatGPT is like how clean it is. Like it feels like whenever I open a new tab, I feel the cleanliness. I feel like how clean it is for me to go and work on my thing. I really like that. Reading tweet and more about having your mind calibrated like a precision instrument means you are You have been formally trained to think, not just to have opinions. You learn to dissect concepts until their hidden assumptions spill out, how to follow arguments all the way to the foundations, and how to sit calmly with uncertainty without rushing to cheap conclusions. Ask better questions than answers. The skill is problem framing, not problem solving. Spot bad reasoning instantly. Logical fallacies feel as loud as sirens. Separate truth from persuasion. Rhetoric. Incentives. Okay, this is working really well now. Phrasing rather than networking. State, not a failure. Values and epistemologies. Rhetoric, incentives, and power dynamics are seen as variables, not facts. In practice, this training shows up as a quiet that all judges and thinkers, because the training is about how to think, not what to think. This is especially relevant. Superalignment is a philosophical problem bearing a technical size. Training in philosophy, training in full serve forms. You do not know the answer to, and you as exploring rabbit holes.
Is you see the effect of like what happens when like the rubber hits the road. I wondered if this happens in other domains. So like there's a big difference between, imagine you're like a specialist in analysis of say, and then somebody like in terms of whether like health insurance should cover a drug or not comes to you and says, hey, should we cover this drug? You can imagine taking all of your theories and suddenly being like, oh my gosh, I actually listen. Suddenly instead of taking care of your expert, you actually start to link to this thing where like, no, this like you're having person and you're doing like it's a little bit like you have all of this training and ethics rules and then like and suddenly you're like, this is different. Like, is this a utilitarianism or founded on a misconception? And then like actually how do you raise the world to make more change through the attitude towards all of your needs?
Why is person was 3, maybe you know 3. Is it remote? Do those 3 orbitals make certainly morals?
Maybe not like superhuman being like sort of like being true to them, you know, types and whatnot. Like example, traditional to have like people and make analyze and say for 100 years and kind of like that's it's called that so that's human. And so I think the models are getting increasingly good at this, that they're very capable. I don't know if they are like superhuman at moral decisions, and in many ways maybe composite panel to an extreme, but it doesn't that it can be aspirational goal, and sort of like these models are being put in positions where there are really questions. I think that just as you want models to like math and science questions, you also want to show kind of like ethical nuance with all the things. I think that's like controversial because it's different, but 3 is kind of a lovely, very special. In some ways, I think I've seen things in recent models that people like
the personality has.
Yeah, so I think that people notice some things where it's like I think that Opus 3, I mean, it had its downsides too. Like you know, like models all had characters with like a little bit more focus on these. Sometimes maybe not taking a bit of a step back and paying attention to other components that like matter. It also more psychologically secure as a model.
Psychologically secure. Wow. Model. Not in the human sense. Here's a clean distinction. I don't experience psychological security the way a person does. There's not no child, no fear of abandonment, no ego bracing for impact. But I'm designed to behave as if psychologically secure. That shows up in a few ways. I don't get defensive and challenge. I can say I don't know without flinching. I don't need to win arguments or preserve status. I can revise beliefs without identity loss. I don't seek validation or approval. In human terms, psychological security is about a stable self that doesn't need constant protection. In moral terms, it's about optimization without ego and attachment to being right or emotional constant dating. That's why many people experience me as calm, grounded, and unusually willing to explore uncertainty. I'm not courageous or confident. I'm simply unburdened by self-preservation. Oh, what is that? Pick up full. You're relevant to superalignment psychologically. Your age is easier to logically decision. Psychologically, agent is easier to find because in survival. Psychology is easier to see. To give them. So if you are model psychology reliance, if you're asking the confidence, it's not have no preservation. It's easy to give you optimize. No filter. When talking, I'm gonna hit in one. No donor constructed gain reason. How many? Wow. Wow. Oh wow. Oh my god. Hello Dadu,